My mother said I'd never be a real artist, so I painted her face on a billboard. They say some artists are born. I was forged. My name is Iris Lynn Hollander, and the first thing my mother ever said when she saw me sketch was, This looks like something a drunk raccoon clawed onto a napkin. I was 8. Welcome to my childhood. If you think that's cruel, just wait. She hadn't even started sharpening her tongue back then, or her expectations. My mother, Cynthia Hollander, was a former pageant queen turned real estate shark who thought feelings were flaws and dreams were distractions. She ruled our house like a tax audit in heels. To her, the worst thing a daughter could be wasn't lazy or stupid or even ugly. It was mediocre, and according to Cynthia, that's exactly what I was. You're not like your sister, she'd hiss while sipping her morning martini. Yes, martini. Morning. Grace has presence. Grace could walk into a room and own it. Grace was a cellist prodigy. Blonde, elegant, emotionally barren. I was the one with oil paint under her fingernails and holes in her jeans. I spent weekends painting street corners and skate parks, hiding my canvases under my bed like contraband. Art was my breath. To Cynthia, it was an infection. She once took a charcoal sketch I made of her, one that I thought captured the sorrow behind her venom, and tore it to pieces. I watched each shard flutter into the trash like snowflakes of shame. This is what failure looks like, she said. She loved metaphors when they were cruel. I moved out at 19. No big fight, no dramatic scene, just silence. I left a note, short and sharp. Since you hate the mess I make, I'm cleaning myself out of your life. No contact for 5 years. Not a text, not a whisper. I scraped by with gallery gigs, coffee shop commissions, portrait booths at flea markets. I taught art therapy to kids with trauma. Maybe because I knew exactly what it felt like to be told your voice doesn't matter. Then came the summer of the reunion. Grace called me, the voice of the favorite. Iris, Mom's throwing this gala thing, her 50th birthday/charity event. Think you can be civil for one night? I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my palette knife. Civil? Did you forget the time she said my art was as lifeless as a coma patient's EKG? She's changed, Grace claimed. Mellowed out. Right. Still, something itched in my chest. Curiosity, maybe. Or something darker. I said I'd come. I rented a dress from a consignment shop, pulled my hair into a sleek ponytail, and wore combat boots under the gown. My silent rebellion. Cynthia lived in this terrifyingly symmetrical mansion outside the city. Her driveway was longer than most relationships. I walked in, and there she was, aged, yes, but still immaculately cruel. She turned, saw me. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. It never had. Iris, she said. You came. Her tone was surprised, disappointed. I nodded. Still not dead. We circled each other all night like passive-aggressive ballerinas. She introduced me to guests as my younger daughter. She's dabbling in creative endeavors. Not artist, not painter, just dabbling. Like art was a puddle and I was a toddler splashing around in it. And then it happened. I was standing near the chocolate fountain, shoveling anxiety into my mouth, when I overheard her talking to a senator's wife. Yes, Grace is our shining star. And Iris? Well, she always had trouble finishing things. So many passions. No talent. I froze. That was it. That was the moment I decided. I was going to show her exactly what unfinished looked like. And it was going to be huge, literally. The next morning I called my friend Mateo. Street artist, graphic designer, occasional arsonist, allegedly. I want to rent a billboard, I told him. There was a pause. Then, oh, honey, who do we kill? No one, I said. Just pride. I told him the plan. He laughed for a full 2 minutes, then said, This is either insane or genius. Probably both. We scouted locations. High traffic area near downtown. Right above the entrance to the biggest real estate conference of the war. Year. The one where Cynthia was giving a keynote. Timing? Perfect. Image? Even better. It took me 3 weeks to complete the painting. I worked in secret, late into the night, in a rented studio lit by buzzing fluorescent lights and revenge. The portrait was lifelike, unflinching, elegant and grotesque in equal measure. I captured her signature scowl, the tension in her brow. The lips always poised to criticize, but behind her head, I painted a blooming explosion of shattered mirrors. Each shard reflecting versions of her younger self, pageant tiara askew, mascara streaked, mouth open mid-critique, surrounded by phrases she'd said to me like they were stitched into my brain. This is what failure looks like. You'll never make it. You're not special. Bold letters at the bottom read, "Real enough for you now, mother?" Mateo helped me scan it, prep the file, and rent the billboard. We uploaded it 3 days before the conference. By noon that Friday, every real estate agent, investor, and socialite in town had seen it, and so had Cynthia. She called me at 3:07 p.m. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. "Iris, take it down, now." Her voice trembled, not with rage, with fear. Oh, how the mighty crack when the spotlight's not flattering. I replayed that voicemail 37 times. It tasted like champagne. But I didn't stop there. The billboard was just the beginning. You see, Cynthia built her empire on image, poise, control. I was about to paint chaos across her kingdom. But that's a story for chapter 2. And trust me, it only gets messier from here. Because when someone tells you you'll never be a real artist, you don't just prove them wrong. You make them your canvas. And darling, I had a lot of paint. You'd think the billboard would have been enough. But Cynthia Hollander didn't just destroy my dreams. She bulldozed them in heels, called it parenting, and served it with a smirk. One billboard wasn't vengeance. It was the invitation. And oh, did she RSVP. The day after the billboard went up, my phone blew up with messages. Some were from former art school classmates, some from gallery curators I thought had forgotten I existed, and one from a woman in Oregon who said, "Your piece made me dump my narcissistic mom. Bless you." But the best message? From a local journalist named Camille, Wynn, investigative type, sharp bob haircut, voice like a scalpel. "Iris," she said over coffee, "I want to do a story on you. The artist who painted her mother into a corner." I blinked. "That's the title?" She sipped her espresso. "Working title. Unless you have something better?" I did. But I wanted to see Cynthia squirm under Camille's blade. So I agreed. Camille published the article 2 days later. It wasn't just about the billboard. She dug deep. Into Cynthia's real estate empire. The tax breaks. The unpaid interns. The mysterious disappearance of her longtime assistant in 2017. It was a masterstroke. Cynthia called me again. Voicemail, Nar 2. "You're ruining everything I've built. Take it all down. Now." Again, I didn't answer. You see, the thing about narcissists, they only understand mirrors, and I was holding up a damn floodlight. That week, I got a message from a curator at the Marlowe Gallery. A real one. The kind with climate control and catered openings. "We'd like to feature your portrait," she wrote, "as part of our Modern Icons exhibition. Are you open to a public showing?" Oh, the irony. Cynthia had always said I'd never get into a real gallery. That my work was too emotional, too angry, too... Iris, she wasn't wrong. That's why it mattered. I emailed back one word. Absolutely. The gallery launch was everything Cynthia hated. Raw, unsanitized, and packed with people who felt something. Strangers stood in front of the painting of her and wept, or laughed, or stared like they'd seen their own mothers inside it. One woman whispered to me, "I wish I'd had your courage." Courage? No. I had rage. And brushes. 3 days after, the gallery launch, a video surfaced, grainy but clear enough. Cynthia, screaming at an intern. In public. At a charity event, no less. "You think you can mess up my slides and still ask for a recommendation? Get out of my face. You're lucky I even let you breathe in my proximity." The internet devoured it. Camille ran a follow-up piece. Beneath the foundation, the cracks in Cynthia Hollander's empire. Hashtags exploded. Billboard mom, shark art ass revenge. Iris was right, and then came the most glorious moment of my life. Cynthia called a press conference, in a cream blazer 2 sizes too tight and a smile that could peel paint. She stood at a podium, surrounded by floral arrangements no one had asked for. "My daughter has chosen a path of public humiliation," she said, voice quivering with faux serenity. "But I forgive her, because she's hurting and lost." I watched it live-streamed while eating cereal, barefoot, unbothered. I turned the volume up when a reporter asked, "Is it true you once called her art lifeless and compared it to a coma patient's EKG?" Cynthia blinked. "That's taken out of context." "Sure, Mother. And arsenic is just misunderstood seasoning." After that, I decided it was time for the final stroke. You see, Cynthia had a prized property, Hollander Plaza, her crown jewel, a sterile, sleek building with mirrored walls and marble everything. She held art showcases there sometimes. Not real art, abstract prints that looked like wallpaper with a drinking problem. I knew the head of security, Mateo's cousin. He owed us a favor. Asked for one night, just one. He gave me 4 hours, so I brought my paints. At midnight, under low emergency lights, and a prayer to the gods of petty vengeance, I set up my canvas in the heart of the lobby, and I painted. Not just her face this time, but her legacy. A crumbling glass tower, held up by terrified assistants and unpaid interns, with her standing on top like a mannequin queen. Eyes closed, hands clean. Smiling, while everything underneath her burned. By sunrise, the entire lobby wall was covered. 30 feet of brutal truth. Cynthia arrived at 7:13 a.m. for a property tour with a senator's wife. She walked in, saw it, screamed. I was already gone. Left behind a plaque, entitled, "Facade," by Iris. Lynn Hollander, she tried to sue me, claimed vandalism, defamation, emotional distress. But here's the thing. The building technically belonged to one of her shell companies. That company had no formal CEO listed, and no one wanted to touch the PR disaster she'd become. The lawsuit never made it to court. The mural? Still up. They covered it with a tarp. But that tarp keeps falling down. Wind is funny like that. The fallout was swift. Investors pulled out. Clients ghosted her. Grace? Even she stopped defending Cynthia. "She's always been like this," Grace said in a podcast interview. "I guess Iris just gave the rest of the world a backstage pass." Me? I kept painting. I turned the voicemail recordings into audio installations. Played them on loop at my next show. People stood in front of those speakers for hours. One guy cried, whispered. My mom said the same things to me. We hugged. No words, just paint and pain and release. Last week, I got a letter. Handwritten. Perfumed. Monogrammed stationery. Cynthia. It read, "I hope you're happy. You've ruined me. I hope that makes you feel like a real artist." I laughed. Out loud. In the middle of my studio. Because the answer? Yes. It did. There's a moment every artist waits for. It's not the applause. Not the gallery openings or interviews. It's not even the money, though that part doesn't suck anymore. It's the moment when the very person who tried to erase you sees that they've become your muse. And it's not flattering. For me, that moment was coming. I just needed a stage big enough to fit all of Cynthia's sins. Enter the Sheridan Arts Festival. Every year, the Sheridan attracts critics, collectors, and influencers who pretend they know the difference between intentional minimalism and forgot the canvas at home. This year's theme? Truth-informed fitting. I submitted my concept anonymously. They accepted it in 3 days, said it was brutally bold. Darkly radiant. One woman called it a soul exorcism with acrylics. Good. They understood the assignment. But what they didn't know was that the piece came with a guest of honor. The week before the show, I reached out to Cynthia. Not directly, of course. I have standards. I sent the invite through a law firm. Fancy envelope. Embossed lettering. You are cordially invited to the premiere of Matriarch, a live performance piece by Iris Lynn Hollander. I knew she wouldn't be able to resist. The chance to see what I'd been doing. The urge to pick it apart. To win, somehow. Narcissists can't ignore an audience. The night of the show, the theater buzzed with a nervous energy. Seats filled, cameras clicked, art critics whispered in, wine-drenched dialects. And then she walked in. Cynthia Hollander, designer coat, tight smile, face pulled just slightly too far by someone who charged by the stitch. She sat front row, naturally. 2 seats over from Camille Wynne, who looked like she'd come just for the bloodbath. The curtain rose. The stage was empty. Then, the spotlight hit me. I stepped forward, barefoot, in a paint-stained dress. Hair wild, heart calm, and I began. Not with a brush. Not with a canvas, but with a story. I was 6 when my mother ripped up my first painting. Gasps. She said it looked like a vomit rainbow. Chuckles. I was 12 when she told me I'd never be beautiful, but at least I could try to. Be useful. Silence. The screen behind me lit up. Photos. Home videos. Voicemails. Paintings. Each frame told a story. The child who colored outside the lines. The teenager who hid sketches under her bed. The adult who painted her pain in plain sight, and then the gallery of evidence. A section I'd saved for this night alone. The assistant who went missing, found, now in a safe house in Vermont. She'd sent a letter, describing years of unpaid labor, verbal abuse, and threats. Her story played on a voiceover, raw, unfiltered. Cynthia shifted in her seat. Behind her, people started whispering. Then came the interns. A slideshow of resignation letters, texts, screenshots, all of them with one thing in common. This job broke me. The audience was rapt, and then came the finale, a portrait, 10 feet high, painted live over the course of the last 15 minutes. As I narrated, it was Cynthia, but not the polished queen of real estate. This was her essence, made of jagged lines and muted screams, lipstick like a smear of blood, eyes vacant, mouth mid-lie, titled Matriarch. I turned to the crowd. This is not a monster. This is a woman who made herself a monster and raised me to worship her. Silence. Then applause. Long. Reluctant. Then thunderous. Cynthia stood up. Iris, she called out. Her voice was too sweet. It dripped poison like perfume. This little tantrum of yours? It's not art. It's obsession. I stepped down from the stage, walked slowly toward her, stopped just shy of where she sat. I tilted my head. And yet here you are. Front row, watching every second. People turned to stare. She stiffened. Go ahead, I said. Call your lawyers. Cry on camera. But you know what you can't do anymore. She didn't answer. I leaned in. You can't silence me. The story made headlines. Daughter exposes real estate mogul in live art performance. Camille's article went viral. The Sheridan awarded me their Emerging Artist grant. But the best part? Cynthia's empire finally cracked. An anonymous whistleblower leaked financial records. Tax evasion. Shell companies. Employee abuse. It was all there. The IRS came, knocking. Her investors pulled out. One even sued her for fraudulent optimism. That was my favorite. She disappeared from public view for a while, sold her penthouse. Her name was quietly removed from the real estate company she built. Her last voicemail to me was short. Voicemail for 3. You win. I kept it. I play it sometimes, when I need motivation. It's been a year now. I've had 3 solo exhibitions. My studio's downtown. My work is on the cover of Art Now. I teach part-time at the same art school that once rejected me. My students ask me how I found my voice. I tell them, it was buried under someone else's. They nod. Some cry. Some laugh. All of them understand. Last week, I unveiled a new series, Portraits of Survivors, each one paired with a quote from the person who tried to destroy them. Mine is the centerpiece. The quote? She said I'd never be a real artist, and underneath it, in crimson paint, the answer. Then I became her masterpiece.